to another episode of Let's Talk Matcha, where we dive into the bittersweet moments of the teenage experience. Just like matcha, both can often be messy and imperfect, but that's what makes them beautiful in the end. With that, for today's episode, I have a super special guest with me here today. As you can tell, this is my first virtual studio, so I'm super excited to be having Project Unlaced with me today. So, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. First of all, I love that intro so much, so creative. So, my name is Mia Lerner, and I'm a junior in Southern California, and I'm the founder and I guess president of Project Unlaced, an initiative dedicated to raising awareness about body empowerment, eating disorders, and relative energy deficiency in sports. So, I'm super excited to talk with you today.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you today. Okay, and for the first question, I'll be asking you, before Project Unlaced existed, what was going on in your life that planted the very first seed for this idea?
Yeah, so we're gonna go back like 6 years, right around when COVID started. And I know, like, for so many other people, it was also such a struggling time. And for me, I've always been a perfectionist and I've always loved control. I love having to do lists, I love having a schedule. And COVID really threw a wrench in that, and it really felt like the whole world was out of my control. Like schools closing, I couldn't do my sports. I've always been a super athletic person, not being able to see my friends. And I turned to food as a way to gain control in my life. And my food and how my body looked became a thing that I could control when a lot of other things in my world seemed out of control. So it always starts really innocently with, I'm just gonna, you know, cut back on sugar. And then before you know it, food became my whole life and personality, where every single part of my day was dedicated to planning what I was gonna eat, looking in the mirror, trying to exercise more, looking at what I eat in the days on social media. And that came to a head in the summer of 2020. I was hospitalized for an eating disorder. And I think that really was an awakening moment for me, and what later spurred me on to start Project Unlaced, because I realized that I didn't get help until I had hit rock bottom. And I know that so many other people experience that, whether that's with an eating disorder or whether it's something else like anxiety and depression. It's so hard to catch these things early on, even though it would be so much easier if we did. So that was kind of got my head in the game of, okay, what can I do to help other people now that I've gone through this tough experience?
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Oh my gosh, I love how you didn't like shy away from your experiences and instead you're using them to help you create this initiative. And since you yourself did go through such a experience that not everyone goes through, and even if they do go through it, they don't really have the help necessarily. It's
Hmm.
so beautiful that you are able to use your initiative for the better. So, was there ever a moment or experience when you realized that athletes needed more support than they're getting?
Yeah, I think it's just overall the culture of sport, especially in high school sports, when there's so much pressure around recruiting and, looking good for your friends, and not to mention all the pressures that are on teenage girls. Like, I know your podcast centers a lot around like the teenage experience. And I think whether you're an athlete or not, there's just so much pressure on us to be a certain way, act a certain way, and especially to look a certain way. I feel like it's impossible to go on social media without being bombarded by diet culture and, what I eat in the days, body checks, and like, look at what I've done, look at how I look. And I think I just realized that it would be so helpful to have a person who's experienced that themselves talk about it, because it's one thing for a coach to say, okay, we need to fuel everyone, or it's another thing for your parents to tell you that, you look beautiful and you are enough. But I think it's really impactful to have that peer-to-peer connection and have someone else who, like, I'm affected by that. I go on social media and I always don't feel great about myself because I compare myself to someone else's body or what they're doing. And I think that really was a fundamental pillar of why I started Project Unlaced, is being able to give this information more accessibly to young people rather than just have it come from parents all the time and adult figures.
Yeah, that's definitely so important. And again, it's just so inspiring to see what you're doing. Do you think social
Hmm.
media has had a big impact with this overall um
Oh my gosh. I totally think so. I think it's just like this constant comparison culture. And I know even if it's not like somebody having an eating disorder or any other mental health illness, but I think we've all experienced the kind of comparison trap where you go on social media and you see someone, whether it's their body or what they've accomplished or how amazing their life looks like, and it just makes you feel less than and like wow, like my life, I'm not doing that, or I don't look like that, or I haven't accomplished that. And I think like that's so difficult because it's so easy to fall into that trap. And I think like it's just constantly reminding myself that I can't compare myself to someone else's 1% that they post on Instagram or TikTok or any other social media platform. And I'm sure so many other people have experienced a similar thing of going on social media thinking, yeah, I'm going to spend 5 minutes quickly and then going down a comparison trap. So
exactly.
I totally think it's like affected our mental health and like how we view ourselves.
Right. And I think nowadays everyone's kind of living as if they're not living authentically. Like it's like
Hmm.
especially on social media, it seems like everyone's putting on a performance and they're putting on an
Yeah.
act just to seem better than everyone or just to seem a certain way. And I think a lot of people care about how other people perceive them, and that's why they're posting all these things. Like, and not to say that all these influencers post things to make other people jealous, but I think some people post things that make other people compare themselves, and then, like you said, you just fall into that rabbit hole of why am I not as good as this person, or why am I not doing this much, or why do I not look a certain way. So I think that's
Hmm.
definitely something that Gen Z specifically has gone through. But
Yeah, I even think it's like as high schoolers, like I know with college admissions is also like a really big thing. Like I feel like we're constantly comparing ourselves, like, what are you doing? What are your grades like? Or, like how do you look? And I think it's just like we are constantly comparing ourselves to our peers, to people who are older than us. And I think like that really weighs down people. So I just think like bringing that to light is important and to start having these conversations.
exactly, and I know like it's a lot easier said than done. Like I know sometimes I don't take my own advice about comparing. Sorry, I don't take my own advice about comparison and stuff like that. But if I were to give like everybody one piece of advice, it's just try your best not to compare because everybody goes through their own individual path to success. Like not everyone is gonna have
Mhm,
the same. Not everyone's gonna have a perfect game. Not everyone's gonna have a perfect
mhm,
test, you know. And it's this is definitely something that I'm a sophomore, so sophomore year has definitely taught me that everyone's different and you don't have to compare yourself
mhm.
because at the end of the day, that person is themselves and I'm me. So yeah,
Yeah, no, I love that. And like just you saying that makes me think about like almost like an iceberg. Like you only see someone's peak that's at the surface and you don't see everything that's underneath. And I think it is a cheesy metaphor, but I think it also like really helps me put into perspective that I am only seeing what this person lets me see and often that's the best part of them and that's, they're 100% like that's the best part of me and I think it's important to realize that people are a lot deeper than that. And I know like I am too. Like I probably come across a lot differently to external people than I look at myself. And I think that's just really important to remind yourself.
that's so beautiful. Thank you so much for that. And starting your own organization at such a young age must have been super scary. So did you have any fears or doubts about that?
Yeah, I think one of the big things was obviously just sharing my experience. Like eating disorders and mental health are still so stigmatized in our society, especially with diet culture. It feels like sometimes even these behaviors, these disordered behaviors, are glamorized and praised. And I think that was really difficult coming out and still being in recovery and trying to speak out about this of saying, hey, I'm, dealing with mental health issues and like I'm going through this struggle and being able to like speak openly about that was definitely difficult. And also realizing that not a lot of people are educated about these issues. So knowing that there's a lot of misconceptions around what is mental health? What is an eating disorder? What does it look like? And there's so many misconceptions and myths. And I think that was really scary to open myself up to that judgment. Speaking of like being a young person, one thing that's been really difficult is like I've always been a pretty introverted person. So having to like go out and like mass email people and reach out to people and be on social media, like those don't come naturally to me. And I think that was a huge learning curve of like, I cannot take rejection personally. And like, that's been like a huge learning curve for me because at the start of this experience, I was emailing so many people and getting so little replies. And now I'm like, you know what? They don't reply. Like, that's their loss. And I think that's just a really important mindset to go into it with.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that because I started the podcast when I was a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
So
My gosh, yeah. So you are exactly there. We're like, you're kind of figuring everything out on your own, and it's really hard.
it is. It kind of felt like I was just like throwing myself out there and like whoever likes it, whoever doesn't doesn't. And that's kind of what I
Mm-hmm.
had to tell myself. And I'm just very fortunate where my school environment is it's very supportive and it's not like there's not that much judgment or hatred or resentment or any of that. So I was personally just very fortunate with that. But I do know just in general like it is so hard to be vulnerable in front of people and especially for us like we are like putting our experiences out there and it's like
Mm-hmm.
can hear them, and whoever can hate. But at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, our experiences are our own, and we're having the courage to put ourselves out there. And I think that's something that you can never take away from someone. So
Yeah, no, I love that so much. And I think that's been one of the most meaningful parts of building an organization. And I'm sure that you've had a similar experience, but being able to see the impact that you do make on the people who relate to your story or take something away, like I would take 1,000 no's and a bunch of hate just to get that one person like a smile in their day or like, wow, I really relate to that. Like, I think those are the moments that make these worth it. So I think while it is so hard to be brave and put yourself out there, it's the connections that you make. And again, sounding so cheesy right now, but it's so true. Like, it feels so impactful when someone comes up to me or comments, like, wow, I relate to this, or like, thank you so much for sharing. And I'm sure you've experienced the same thing.
definitely, oh my gosh, I still remember my first comment or my first like DM from somebody I didn't know, and I just remember the way that made me feel, and I was like, I definitely think in those moments it's where I feel like I found my sense of purpose and it's like, oh, like this is
Mm-hmm.
why I'm doing this. This is why I'm spending hours and days editing so many like, it's definitely crazy, but just seeing the growth that's came is really the best part. So, and I know
Yeah.
that you can feel the same way. So,
Mm-hmm.
also, do you play a sport? I know you this is all about like athletes and body image and all of that. So,
Yeah, I run. So I'm one of those runners. I do cross country and then I do track. So
okay,
yeah.
nice. Yeah, I play volleyball. So, I've been playing volleyball.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Wait, that's so cool.
right. Yeah, I've been playing maybe since I was like 9.
Oh
So
my gosh. Okay, I
yeah,
have no coordination
no.
whatsoever. Like that's why I'm a runner.
Oh my gosh, I like literally can't run for my life. So that's all you. That's not. I cannot do that. But was there someone who supported you early on, or someone who didn't, and how did that shape you?
Yeah, so whoa, that I love that question so much because I can definitely like immediately people come to mind where I'm like, okay, these people are in my supportive group and then these people were definitely in like my haters.
Oh, okay.
And I think the supportive group, like my parents have been the biggest supporters ever. And I am so thankful for that because I know so many people, their parents put a lot of pressure on them or they don't have a very open relationship. And I'm so thankful that I have a super open relationship with my parents and they're really supportive of not only my recovery journey from an eating disorder, but also willing to support me as I build Project Unlaced and share my story. So that's been amazing to have them behind my back. And then I think one specific story about someone who didn't support me, and this relates to more of my like eating disorder journey, but right before a couple weeks before I was sent to the hospital actually, I went to my, yearly doctor's appointments, like standard, wellness check and the nurse, I had already lost some weight, and the nurse actually praised my weight loss, even though I was a teenager who was, gaining height, like getting taller, supposed to going through puberty and is losing weight. Like that should be a red flag. And instead, she like praised how my body looked. And I think that was a super pivotal moment for me where I was like, wow, my disordered behaviors and my eating disorder is getting praised by other people. And especially me being a people pleaser, that was like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. Like, this is making people like me and this is giving me praise. And that was really tough to like be able to work through those thoughts and realize like, no, I know what is healthy for me, and for me this body that I'm in that is getting praise from other people is not healthy. And I think that was just really impactful for me because it also made me realize how many people aren't aware about these issues, and that was also so important as I started Project Unlaced.
Wow. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. And I know that must have been such a struggle for you, especially at a young
Mm-hmm.
age. Like it's hard to like
Yeah, like you're telling an 11-year-old girl that, like you're so impressionable at that age.
11?
So,
Oh my gosh, I'm
yeah,
so sorry. Well, that's terrible.
yeah.
But that's honestly great, and I'm sure you definitely had a great support system going through all of it.
Mhm.
Without a support system, I don't know how that would have went. But did you at least have people to go through this with you, or would you say you felt more alone in that?
Yeah, I think it's definitely been ups and downs. There's been times where, you have really good days and like life feels amazing, and then like, that's the teenage experience, and the next day you're like, wow, I'm nobody's friends, like, everyone hates me. And I think it's just like being able to stick through those roller coasters. Like it's really easy to have a bad day and be like, this is how I'm going to feel forever. And I think that's been a super important learning curve for me of realizing that like my emotions and how I feel are just constantly in flux. And like the next day I might wake up and it's like a sunny day. I'm gonna be happy. So I think it's just been like important to like ride out that roller coaster, I guess. But yeah, I'm again like I'm so grateful for the support system that I have had because they've been amazing and they're really the reason like why I've gone through my recovery and why I've been able to start Project Unlaced, because of the people supporting me.
Right. Oh my gosh, I love that point about being able to ride out the roller coaster because, and again, sophomore year, whew, sophomore year has definitely taken a toll on me.
Yes.
I so my school is a trimester system, and I know that I told you this earlier, but my fall term, I had my hardest classes. I had all my honors, and then I had AP World History, and it was like I didn't have any of my elective classes. Like it was a lot, and then I also had
Hmm.
varsity volleyball at the same time. So it was like I'd wake up, and then I'd go to school, and then I'd have weightlifting, and then I'd have practice, and then I'd go home, eat, shower, study, and I just felt like the same constant routine every single day.
Hmm.
A lot of work on my plate, and it honestly felt like nothing was gonna get better. Like I kid you not, I cried every single day for like 2 months.
Oh, girl, like I feel like we've all had that experience where
Exactly.
like there's just like I feel like that's just core like teenage girl, like you
Exactly.
have to go through a period where like weeks like you just hate what you're doing.
I know, exactly. And I feel like that's the thing. I feel like not a lot of people talk about that, and they kind of like glamorize the idea of high school and they romanticize it. And it's like high
Hmm.
school, you're supposed to get a boyfriend and go to parties and like do all of these movie esque things, but it's not like that. It's
Totally. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love how you say like the high school experience has been glamorized because I feel like that's so true, especially for teenage girls. I feel like we have this pressure to do everything, be
yeah,
smart, have a really good social life, do a sport, like be really nice through it all, like, never show like a bad side or that you're struggling. And I think like that is so detrimental that we all have to hide our struggles instead of like speaking openly about it and realizing like, wow, I'm not alone in what I'm going through. um so I think that's just so amazing that like you're able to like talk about that, and I think again like props to you for being so courageous.
oh, thank you. And you too. I love how we're able to have this like back and forth discussion. Like this is such a great collab. Oh, and tying back to your whole like introverted side of you, I like when I first met you, I was like, wow, she is so bubbly. She is so extroverted. Like I would have never thought that you're
Oh,
so extroverted.
thanks.
So yeah, like it
Oh
definitely
my
gives
gosh.
me courage.
Yeah, no, I've been like, I don't know, I grew up like super, like, very much like people pleasing, like introverted, like, how do I come across as other people? Like, does this person like me? Am I saying the right things? And I think it's just important to like, it's not that serious. And I think like that's helped me so much of like, like life is long, like I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm not always gonna say the right things, and like that's okay. So I think that's just that perspective has really helped me.
Definitely putting everything into perspective helps so much. And what I've been trying to tell myself is that every day is a new day.
Hmm.
What I felt yesterday, I may not feel today. What I felt
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, I probably don't even remember right now. I think everything just becomes a memory and it becomes
Oh
a
my
moment
gosh.
in time.
I love that so much. Yes, that is literally the mindset that will carry you through.
Exactly, exactly. But for you, starting a nonprofit, what was the first thing that you did to actually jumpstart it?
Yes. Okay. First thing that I did. So I think one of the things that I wanted to do with Project Unlaced is be able to educate my peers, especially athletes. Because again, it's one thing for your coach to say, like, okay, guys, it's important that we fuel, it's important that, we take care of our bodies. And first of all, most coaches aren't even aware of issues like eating disorders and relative energy deficiency in sport. And second, like these topics are so stigmatized, like periods and fueling and body image, that it's really hard to talk about these things, especially when so many coaches are male. So, one of the first things that I did was create like a workshop along with like several like medical professionals. And then I just emailed a mass amount of um, coaches around in California, and most of them didn't respond, and like 1% did, and those are the 1% where I was like, yes, I'd love to present. Like, give me a date and a time, and I'll be there. And I think like that's been honestly the best part of Project Unlaced for me is to be able to connect like face to face with peers and talk about not only my own struggles, but then also like what are the scientific facts about these issues? Why is it important that we're getting a period? What are the signs of an eating disorder? What does it mean? What does care mean? And I think like that journey has just been, again, super life changing for me, in that I've gained so many skills, like the ability to deal with rejection, being okay with being more extroverted. So that's kind of like my roundabout way of saying workshops, emailing a bunch of people were kind of like my first step.
Oh, that's so cool. And it's so cool that you do in-person workshops.
Yes, no, I love it. I mean, most of the time I have to do like online, but since I live in Los Angeles, there's quite a few high schools in our area, so I'm able to do like a good amount of them in person, where I email a bunch of coaches and I'm like, "Hey, I have this workshop that I collaborated with several medical professionals and I'd love to come in and present." And again, most people don't respond, but some do, and then I get to go in. So,
Yeah.
and those moments are just like so moving for me to be able to see how I'm impacting others, and then also when they're able to share their story back to me is like so inspiring.
I love that. And I feel like it's definitely hard to not take those rejections and to not
Mm-hmm.
think about it and to not like let the negatives get the best of you. But somebody's
Yeah.
always going to say yes, and I think it's so beautiful that
Mm-hmm.
you're able to persevere through that all and not let it get the best of you. So,
Mm-hmm.
have there ever
Definitely.
been any like major challenges that you didn't expect when starting from this, and how did you grow through them?
Yeah, I think the big thing was definitely all the no's at the beginning. And I think also just as a young person, like I was like, okay, I have this idea and I know my own story, but then it's like, okay, what do I do? And I'm sure like you felt a similar thing where it's like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't even know what the first step is. Like, the goal can feel overwhelming, and it's like, okay, what is the first step? Like, what do I have, who do I have to reach out to? Like, what skills do I need to have? And I think that was just so overwhelming at the beginning to have like, I have this goal and I need to like break it down now. And I think for me, it was just realizing that like, it's not going to be perfect. Like, I'm going to make mistakes on the way. And that was hard because I'm a perfectionist. I love knowing like, okay, this is going to be perfect. I'm going to do everything right. I'm going to say everything right. Everyone's going to love me. And I think it was like, no, like I'm 16 years old. Like, I am not doing everything perfect. I have no idea what I'm doing. And like, it's just about getting help where I can. And most people are going to say no, but some people are going to love what I'm doing and they're going to be willing to support me. And that's great. So I think the biggest piece of advice and like I should also take this advice, is just being okay with asking help from other people. I think I'm a pretty independent person and I would like to do things alone and say like, yeah, I did this alone and I built this alone, but I think it's really important to realize that like you need a community and you need the support system. So, I think that was definitely a block at the beginning, but we're working through it.
Exactly, exactly. I definitely feel what you mean. I'm also very much so a perfectionist with school, with sports, with everything I do. It's like if I don't get it perfect the first time, I flip. And it's
Yeah.
definitely, again, it's been a process that we're working through. And my teacher, actually, in geometry this year, she was telling me, like, you expect to understand the lesson immediately when you do it, but you have to do all of the homework. You have to study. And
Mhm.
I know some people, the frustrating thing is that some people get it immediately. And they just
Mhm.
get everything spoon fed to them and they're unnatural at it. That's not me. I like when I tell you I need to work in order to understand something, I need to whew, and it's definitely been a process trying to tell myself that that is okay and I am different from the person sitting next to me or from that person who gets an A on every single math test or from that
Mhm.
plays perfect at every single volleyball game. Like that's not me and that's okay. So,
Totally. And I think that goes back to like our comparison like discussion that we had earlier. And I also think like the perfectionism, I think so many people relate to that. Like for me it was like if it's not going to be perfect, I don't even want to do it. Like I don't even want to attempt to do it and then fail. And I think that stopped me from making more progress early on because it was like, okay, if it's not exactly planned and if it's not exactly perfect, I'm not even going to try. And I think when I made the most progress is when I just realized, you know what, like this is as good as it's going to get right now and it's going to improve as I go on. And I think like that can be applied to so many aspects of life. So I think
exactly.
that's just really important that like yes, your perfectionism helps you, but it's also important to let go of it when it's not serving you.
Yeah, I've been thinking of this thing recently where have you seen the thing where it's like overthinking will be like my ruin? I don't know.
Mhm.
Oh,
I'm
I
part of the overthinking club.
exactly.
I
Exactly. I definitely have been thinking about that because it's like I get so in my own head, and it's not even like my own capabilities that's stopping me. It's my mental blocks that are stopping me.
Mhm.
And I think in sports, in school, in the podcast, if like I like to think of it as this: if I didn't publish my first episode, or if I didn't post that one reel of to help promote my podcast, I wouldn't be where I am right now. You know. So I
Mhm.
think it's so important to just get out of your head and to just do it because if you don't do it, you never know what good opportunities may come out of it.
Yes. Yes, I love that so much. That's like again, like I'd like you just said, like just get out of your head and do it. And like again, like you can always revise it later and you'll improve, you'll make mistakes, and
Exactly.
it's all like part of the journey. So, I
Yeah.
love that.
Mistakes are so bad. It's inevitable. Mistakes are inevitable. And I know it's hard to
As
say.
hard as it is, like even just saying it now, I'm like, no, I don't want to make mistakes. Like I hate
I
mistakes, but it's like
know.
no, like I do learn from them and they are needed. Like no one is going to do everything perfectly.
It's a learning process and it's hard. And then, like, even right now, when I'm telling myself it's a learning process, I bet tomorrow I'm gonna be, like, in my bed and, like, what am I doing with my life right now? Like, you know?
Yep.
And it feels like a never ending cycle. And it's like, are things ever gonna get better? Am I gonna keep making these silly mistakes that I'm not even supposed to be making? But it's like, life isn't perfect. You're not gonna be
Mhm.
perfect in everything you do. And I, I don't know why, but I always, some days I view my mistakes as a vulnerability, but then the other day I feel it as if mistakes are like my greatest strength, you know?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's just hard to tell myself that, and it's hard, again, everybody, take our advice, but we're not perfect ourselves. We're not perfect ourselves.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, this is great for me. This is a
Yeah.
great reminder because, like, I say all these things and then, like, just like you, like, probably tonight I'll make a mistake and I'll be like, wow, I suck and I'm the worst.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
I think, like, great, like, reminder for me too.
exactly. Yes, for me too. Thank you so much. Um, sorry, let me read this. What do you wish people understood about the mental health journey of teenagers in sports?
Yeah, I think it's the most important thing is just not to judge other people. I know that, like, when I was struggling the most people didn't even know, and it's because I didn't talk about it and I didn't let them know. And I think that's just, again, like we talked about, like that comparison, like it's just really important to realize that like people have so much more going on underneath than they tell you. And a lot of times that is because these are so stigmatized. So I think it's also just realizing that like your words impact other people, whether you realize them or not. And speaking of this from someone who's recovered from an eating disorder, like teenagers say so many things about food and their bodies. And I think it's really important to realize that what you're saying is impacting other people. You know, I'll go to lunch and people will be like, no, I can't eat this because it'll make me fat. Or I'm trying to lose weight right now. And a 16-year-old saying that is, first of all, a little bit scary and like concerning. Like, we have growing bodies. Like, we should feel more empowered in our own bodies. And second of all, like, that can hurt someone who is struggling with their relationship with food and their bodies. So I think it's just really important to realize that you can't see what people are struggling with, even if, you know, you have ideas or you think you know. And then just being mindful around your words and like how you're phrasing things, especially around sensitive things like food and body image.
Yeah, and I think it's so great that you're even saying this because I bet so many people are struggling through this, and it's just so
Mm-hmm.
important to have a platform where you can go to or have somebody that you can lean on. And I think when you're isolating yourself and when you're not telling people that you need help, that's oftentimes when you hit rock bottom. And I think it's so
Yep.
great that both of us are having these platforms where we are offering people that space to go to whenever they need help. And in my case, it's all about the teenage experience. And whenever someone's feeling lonely or overwhelmed, they can, like always hopefully rely on the episodes that I put out. And whenever someone's, and not to like jinx anyone, but if they're ever dealing with a mental health disorder or an eating disorder, they can always go to you. So
Yeah, and I think I love how you say that like isolation is often like when you're struggling, like isolation is like where you go to. And I know like I feel that that resonates so well with me because when I'm struggling the most, instead of going out, reaching out to friends or reaching out to my parents and my support system, which would be the most helpful course of action, I often like turn inward, and that just makes it worse because you head down that overthinking spiral. And so I just love that you mentioned that like, you know, that is important that like we're aware of it, of like, am I self isolating and like why am I doing that? So I just love that you bring that up.
thank you so much. And I think it could definitely go both ways. Like I think there's a certain amount of reflection and independence that you need to give
Mm-hmm.
yourself. But it definitely gets to a point where if you do that too much and you don't look for help, then you just go down that overthinking path. And I felt that so much in the fall when I remember one morning I was like on my way to school and I just started breaking down, like just bawling my
Oh no, wait, I'm
eyes
so sorry
out.
that you went through
Okay.
that.
It's okay. Everyone goes through that. But I remember my friend's mom was asking me like, "Have you been getting help for this? Like, it seems like you've been internalizing this so much. Like, it's good to internalize it to some point, but at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, you can't be your biggest enemy." And I think that's what was happening to me because I was the one imposing all these mental blocks on myself, and I was the one who wasn't going to my counselors, wasn't openly talking about it with my friends. But it's like if you don't target the root cause of the problem, it's never going to go away. So I think
Mm-hmm.
every time you try to isolate, and again, it's good to have that sense of independence, but at the same time, if for all the overthinkers out there, you oftentimes will end up going down a rabbit hole of overthinking, and that's like the worst thing that could ever happen. Because again, you don't want to be your biggest enemy. So
Definitely. Yeah, and like so many things, it's just about balance, like giving yourself the space and the time to feel things. Like you can't avoid these negative feelings, but at the same time, it's important to realize, like, okay, this is a boundary, and like this is getting to a point where it's damaging like my life experience. So I think it's just like, again, like most things, it's just about like balance and knowing that there's support when you're struggling.
exactly, and again, it's like you said, it's a learning process, and again, I feel like right now I'm saying this, but later on I'm gonna be like, what am I doing? But it's okay. Everyone, I feel like everyone's gonna go through that. Why do you think education around fueling, eating disorders, and mental health is so lacking in sports?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is like this grind culture, especially among young people, of this feeling like we need discipline and we need to grind 24/7 and like no pain, no gain. And I think this isn't even just like sports, but I feel like just teenagers in general, like especially with like college admissions, it feels like there's constantly a pressure to like have excellence in everything that you do. And I think that can put a lot of pressure on young athletes to perform well and to do things perfectly. And so many athletes, I think, are also like this overachiever, A type personality, perfectionism, and they get ideas of, okay, this is how I eat perfectly, this is what the perfect athlete body is supposed to look like, and that's what sends them down this road. And I know that from my own personal experience, it starts really innocently. Like it starts with just small changes to, okay, I'm gonna cut out sugar, and then it's like I'm cutting out whole food groups, and then it's I'm obsessively tracking calories. And I think that's why I think education is so important, that we raise awareness about these issues so that people can talk about them when they realize that, okay, something may not be right, and all for the purpose that we can get people help before they hit rock bottom.
Exactly.
Whether that's, their mental health, their physical health, like let's destigmatize these topics so that when people realize, yeah, I think something's off, like I feel a bit more tired the last couple weeks, or, I feel like I'm having a weird relationship with my food or my body. Like, let's destigmatize that. Let's open up the conversation so that they can go to help, whether that's a trusted adult, a coach, a counselor. And I think that's why education is so important, because I know that when I was struggling with an eating disorder, I no one had ever told me about what an eating disorder was or why getting your period is so important. And that stopped me from getting help because I was like, what am I dealing with? Like, I know something is wrong, but I'm confused. No one has ever talked to me about these issues. So I hope that me and other people in this space can open up these conversations.
Yeah, so did you say you went through this when you were like 11 years old?
Yeah, so I started struggling like right before I turned 11, like winter of like 2020, end of 2019. So I was like just at the end of 10 and going into 11. And that was so scary being so young, especially since like no one was talking about these issues, especially being at such a young age. And then, going through recovery, eating disorder recovery, when so much change is already happening, like you're a teenager, friendships are shifting around, you have the ups and downs of emotions, and school being becoming more stressful and more commitments. And I think that was just really hard to juggle everything. So if anyone's going through that, I just want to say, like, I don't know your exact experience, but I can definitely relate to the experience of feeling lonely in that, or feeling overwhelmed and being scared to ask for help. And I just want to say, like, the first step of getting help is always by far the hardest, and that is the most courageous step you'll ever take.
That you just brought up an amazing point right there. I never thought of it. I never thought that at such a young age. I feel like it's not really talked about. Like people don't really talk
Mm-hmm.
about getting eating disorders at 11 years old. Like that is crazy. And I feel like thinking back
Mm-hmm.
to when I was in elementary school, I never had literacy on that. I never had people even know
Mm-hmm.
like, and especially because like we were like during COVID and stuff, that like really emphasized the fact that maybe this needs to be instilled upon more in elementary schools. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people would say like they would think, oh, like these kids are too young, like they don't need to be thinking about it at such a young age, like you gotta preserve their innocence. But no, like these things happen in real life, and I feel like if we
Mm-hmm.
don't start instilling up these things upon these kids at such a young age, then they if they go through it, they're gonna feel alone. So
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think that's one of the reasons why like I'm so passionate about what I'm doing with Project Unlaced, because I hope I can be that young person talking about these issues, because there is more voices around mental health now, but I think a lot of these voices are from older people who are years older than me, and it doesn't feel relatable. And I know that like you're also doing a very similar thing of like, let's break down these topics as someone who's going through it and experiencing it right now, whether it's experiencing the highs and lows of a teenage experience or the highs and lows of dealing with mental health. And I think that's so impactful, having this like peer-to-peer connection rather than this like adult figure telling young kids what to do.
Exactly, exactly. Have you started doing workshops at elementary schools or just high schoolers so far?
So that's what I'm really excited about. I hope to bring like body empowerment to elementary schools. So that is one of my next projects. I think it would be really cool to just not not necessarily mental health related, but I hope to help younger kids feel more empowered in their bodies, because there's really scary statistics about young kids already being on diets and wanting to lose weight and feeling dissatisfied with their body. And we talked about social media, like more kids being on social media is just exacerbating that problem.
Exactly.
So I think it's just so important that we start these conversations of your body is an instrument, not an ornament. And you need to be grateful for what it can do for you. And like, yes, we want to love how our body looks, but like body image goes up and down. There's no one who loves their body every single day and every part of their body. So I think it's just really important to shift from like what does our body look like to all the amazing things that it does for us.
Exactly, and I like the fact that you brought up how nobody loves their body every single day.
Mhm.
But social media makes us think that people are
Mhm.
super confident every single day. But again, there's so much that you see. There's so much more that you see that's just behind the camera. Everything on camera can oftentimes just be a performance. And it's so hard, especially to these little kids. Their minds are like sponges, and they just absorb everything
Mhm.
they see. So I don't. There's so many things that go to it. And I don't. You can't just ban kids off of social media. But it's like, how do you approach it in a healthy and positive way where these kids are learning that it's okay to ask for help, and it's like
Mhm.
and having them also learn that this is a learning curve for everyone and that nobody is perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's so important that this is a learning curve. Like, we're not going to prevent comparison and we're not going to prevent mental health issues. Like, that's not the goal. I think the goal is to destigmatize these issues so that when someone is going through it, they can ask for help earlier. Because, like, again, like, we're not going to be able to, like, have, like, 100% happy, like, we all love our bodies. Like, that's just not feasible. So I think like exactly what you're doing, like destigmatizing these topics and being able to talk about our struggles is really the main point.
Exactly, yeah. And what would you say is up next for Project Unlaced, and how can teens get involved and learn more about it?
Yeah, so a really exciting development that I'm just super excited for. I've been working a lot on it. We're launching an ambassador program and then volunteer programs so people can get volunteer hours and just help build Project Unlaced with leadership positions, hopefully something you're passionate about, but also like beef up your resume. So, super excited about that. Information will be on our website and on our Instagram soon. So, yeah, I'm just really excited to expand this community to other people so that it can just be more than me, and hopefully other people will also really like to help their peers and expands the mission of destigmatizing these topics.
Definitely. Is it just you right now, or do you have a team that you're working with at all?
Nope, it's just me. Headquarters is in my room.
Yeah,
I'm a one man show. So
literally.
it does feel like a lot, but yeah. I mean, I love Project Unlaced, as I'm sure like you love your podcast. Like it's I don't know, there's just so much like blood, sweat, and tears that I've
Oh
poured into this. So I'm super excited to like share it with other people and have other people become part of it.
yeah, and then also I love the name. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, okay, so again, overthinker, so was like, is this the right name? Is like, you know, whatever. It was a whole situation.
Yeah.
Tears were shed over this.
Oh,
But I think in the end, it came to me that like my goal is to unlace these myths, and there's so many myths and misconceptions about mental health, and especially in sports around fueling and body image. So like let's break these down, let's unlace those myths and see what's actually behind them. So I think that was kind of like, you know, like let's take off like our masks that I think we often put on, and I think it's important that like we show our vulnerable side. Not only does that help us, but that inspires and makes other people feel less alone.
I love that. Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh, it's like you're like uncovering and destigmatizing
Yes.
all these
Okay,
things.
well, you want to talk about good names? Like your name, your intro, I was like, wow, this girl is creative.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, let me tell you the story about that. So, okay, nowadays, kind of sad about this, but matcha is like performative. Like,
Yeah, I was like, did you go like before
I
like
did.
matcha blew up, or was
Yes.
this like because matcha blew up? Like,
No.
I need to know the
Okay.
timeline.
Yes. Okay. Let's go into it. So I started my podcast. I came up with the name of my podcast last fall. So fall of 2024. I don't.
I just want to say, like, as a freshman, like
Yeah.
that was like props to you. I think as a freshman, I was like so overwhelmed with everything.
Thank you so much. But I mean, in my opinion, I don't think it had become the quarter zip matcha whatever trend it is now. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that started until like March or April maybe.
Yeah, I feel like that was later. Like that was definitely a summer thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I came out with my first episode. I filmed my first episode in January. I released it in February. And at that time there wasn't really any like matcha talk. Like yeah, it was popular, but it wasn't performative, you know?
So have you always just liked matcha?
I
Like, how did you come
have.
up with that?
Yeah,
Oh,
I've
okay.
liked matcha since I mean, I'm like a little bit Japanese, so
Mm-hmm.
I grew up around matcha and all of that. So, I mean, yeah, I've liked it since I was younger, and I remember I knew that I wanted to start a podcast. I want to say like end of eighth grade, and I
Oh my gosh, this girl has goals.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely very like ambitious and stuff, and I'm not the introverted type. Like I'm super extroverted. I'm not afraid to put myself out in front of the camera and like all of that. So I was like, you know what? Maybe it would be really cool to start a podcasting club at school. And then I realized maybe that wouldn't be the move because I'd have to be confined to the administrative like process
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. So I was like, this may sound really ambitious, but what if I start my own podcast? And I don't really remember exactly when I started to come up with the theme. I think when I came up with the name, I came up with the overall theme of the podcast. And again, the research process is by far like one of the hardest parts of even starting a podcast. And
Mm-hmm.
like researching is the hardest part before actually like executing it. So, I remember I was actually in LA. I was going to Universal Studios and I went to this place called I think it's La La Land. It's in like San
Uh-huh.
It's this like cafe and they sell matcha. So I wanted to try it and I was drinking it and I was telling my parents like, "Oh yeah, like I read this essay on TikTok. It was like a college essay and it was about how somebody compared matcha to their life experiences and how matcha is bittersweet and how you have to go through the bumps and the clumps in order to reach that sweet thing at the end." And I think that really just goes to show of what I'm doing with my podcast. It's like your life
Mm-hmm.
the teenage experience is so bittersweet and there's a lot of bumps and clumps that you go on along the way, but that doesn't mean that you won't reach something beautiful in the end, you know?
I oh my gosh, like I had never thought of that metaphor before, but I think it's like so beautiful and it fits so perfectly. Like there are good times and there are bad times, and like again, like you just gotta ride them out.
Exactly.
And again, like props to you for everything that you've done, and like I think it's just so amazing as like a young person seeing another young person like trying to talk about these experiences and say like yeah there are hard times and like we're not afraid to admit that. I think that's just really cool.
Exactly. Have you done any other like collabs with other people before? Like or other
Yeah,
organizations?
it's been mostly like on the medical professional side, so I'm like super excited to like talk with another like young person, because like while I love like getting the scientific like real research behind it, I think it's just so important to also have like more relatable conversations. So I've absolutely loved talking to
Exactly.
you.
Me too. Same here. And I remember you're the first person who's ever reached out to me before. So when you
Oh
did
my
that,
gosh, I know. I came across your Instagram and I was like, okay, I need to talk to this girl. Like
oh
I was like, you know what? Like I'm just gonna send a DM. Like, who knows if it'll work out? But you responded, and then, oh my gosh, I literally love talking to you. Like, you have such an amazing
Oh,
personality.
thank you so much. Oh my gosh, you're so nice. Do you remember like what reel it was that came up on? Was it like on your For You page or what was it?
Yes, okay, I think it was. And I was like, oh wait, this is kind of like I was like, this is like I was like, oh, I really like that it's like two young people, like that really resonates with me. Then I was like, okay, I see the name, like I like it. And then I was like, wow, like this girl, she like has a bubbly personality. She like talks openly about things. I was like, I think I'm gonna like her.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. That means so much to me. Oh my gosh, thank you.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, you did it. Like this is you. So, I mean, props to you.
Props to you too. What the heck? Having a whole
Oh.
reason. It's so great. And again, it definitely takes a lot of courage to do the things that we're doing. And at times, it's so hard to give myself grace. And I know that you probably think that too.
Mhm.
Like, it's like,
Oh my god. Yes.
there would be times, like, for example, I'll, like, do not the best on, like, a math test or, like, a school test. And then I'll just go home and it would just ruin my day. And it's like, I don't want my day,
Mhm.
or I don't want just my overall experiences to have such a toll on me and to consume me, you know?
Mhm. Especially like these small details. Like I love how you say like even just like a math test or like, when I don't do well on like a race or something, like that will ruin my day and maybe even like go into the week. And I think it's just important to realize like you're so much more than just like one thing. And I know we get told that so often. Like I get so annoyed when my mom tells me that. Like she's
Oh,
always like,
same.
"You are doing enough." Like you are amazing. Like, look at how far you come. And I'm like, Mom, like, be quiet. Like, I'm not enough. I suck. And I think it's just important to realize, like, you can't get external validation. Like, that can't just be enough. And it's really important to, like, look within yourself and realize, like, wow, I have come far. Like, I'm sure you looking at, like, releasing that first podcast episode and then seeing how far you've come, like, that's so cool to, like, realize like wow, yeah, I did all that stuff and like there were hard times but like I got through it and I think that's just so cool.
That just, oh my gosh, you made up such a good point. I never, honestly, I feel like I rely too much on external validation and I can never be
Mhm.
okay within. That's the
Mhm.
problem, and that's why I struggled so much in the fall because I constantly couldn't tell myself that everything was going to be okay, and I had to constantly look
Mhm.
outwards to my counselors, to my friends, to my family. And that's where we talk about that balance between having that certain amount of autonomy versus having that certain amount of openness where you can be okay with yourself and also get that validation from other people. So it's very complex. That's what I'll say.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. Um, this is my last question, but what is one lesson that
Okay.
you're learning right now that you think other teens need to hear?
Yeah, I mean, I know we talked about it like before, but I think just being okay with asking for help. I think it's still so stigmatized to like reach out for help and get help from other people. And I think it's just really important to like be vulnerable about what you're going through and realizing like it is not a weakness to go through a hard time or have to ask somebody else for help. And I think like that can extend to mental health, but that can even just be like I need help on a school project or like I need help with this, whatever it is. I think it's important to realize like you can ask for help, you can struggle and you will make mistakes and that's okay. So I think it's just like it's cliche, but just like embracing like the mistakes and the bad times and realizing like there is support if you ask for it.
Yeah, I like the part where you mentioned about it being cliche, and I think that's why a lot of people don't want to really
Mhm.
embrace this whole self-care, mental health talk because it's cliche. It's like everybody says it, and I think that kind of adds to the stigma around it because it's kind of like
Mhm.
cringe. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like
Yes. Oh my gosh,
really
especially around teenagers. Like I feel like we make everything like cringy and like,
yeah.
then it's like, yeah, well, I'm not going to talk about it. So I love that point so
Yeah,
much.
exactly. And I think about that so much because it's like anytime I think I've been around people and somebody will say some like sentimental, vulnerable thing, and then somebody just takes it as a joke, and it's like,
Mhm.
it's not a joke. Like this is somebody who is having the courage to say what they feel, is having the courage to give someone advice, and you're like making fun of it, and you're saying it's like corny,
Mhm.
cringe, you know?
Mhm.
And
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
totally.
yeah, and I think those people who say that just haven't really understood yet, and they haven't really, not to sound mean, but maybe they just haven't gone through. a struggle yet that makes them need to seek that outer validation, I guess, you know?
Mhm.
I know that
Mhm.
kind of sounds bad, but I don't know if that like makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I think it's just like these struggles really help me gain empathy. And I think if there's one thing that I've gained from not even just like my eating disorder struggles, but just like struggles in general, is like I have so much more empathy for other people who are going through things. Like I think I'm so much more like, wow, that person seems like they're having a tough day. Like I don't know what's going on, but like I feel for them. And I think like that has been so cool to realize that like we're all in this together, you know, even if we're not talking about it, like we are going through it together. And I think like that community is just so important.
Definitely. It's so much. It just makes my day and it just makes me feel so much better. It feels like there's like a weight that's been taken off my shoulder because I know that somebody else is going through something with me.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, even talking to you now, I'm like, you're like saying things about like not doing good on a math test, and then overthinking. I was like, yup, like check that box. Like
Yeah.
that's me. And I think like even just having these conversations with one other person is so, so cool and so impactful.
Exactly. Well, if you have any other last words that you want to say to everyone, feel free to share. But if not,
Yeah, well, I just want to say like thank you so much again for having me on. I mean, this was a shot in the dark that I took, and I'm so glad that it worked out.
me too. I'm so happy to have had you on. And for anyone else who's struggling with anything, please know that both of us are always here. You can reach out to our Instagrams or your website. Do you have your email up or anything like that?
Yes, I have my email is just projectunlaced@gmail.com, and then my website is projectunlaced.org. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I have a lot of resources on there, ways to get involved, so feel free to check it out.
Yes, thank you so much everyone for listening and we hope to see you all in the next episode. Bye.